Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Ramos Law Difference Makers podcast, where it is my incredible pleasure and honor to meet people, to visit with them and talk with them about their lives, their stories, and how they're making an impact in the world. Today, it's a really cool day for me because I have a chance to visit with someone who's not only a brilliant attorney, but a dear friend of mine, someone I've known for a few years now, and watching how he does what he does and the life that he's taken, the path that he's taken has been really an inspiration to me, so much so that he has now come to a new level of our firm. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but without holding the suspense any longer, I want to welcome Randy Manning to the show. Randy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Oh man, listen, we've been waiting for this, more me than you. I know that, you're not looking for the limelight and all that, but I couldn't help but ask to have you on the show because you have such a wealth of knowledge and I've seen it from the very beginning. And now the fact that you've come over and it's a recent development where you're heading up all things legal in the law firm. And it's just been so good watching your strategy, your mind. And I want to get into all that. But first, let me just say to you, congratulations for the incredible, incredible job you've done and for getting this position of heading up all things law in the law firm.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm super excited to be here. It's my first day today. It's a little crazy, trying to drink from a fire hose, I guess they say.
Yes.
But we're ready to go. I'm ready to go. My family's ready to go. So
that is beautiful. Yeah, it's almost like you're the new coach, so to speak, right? You're a player coach of a new team. And when you hear how these people come over from one organization to another, you hear the whys in their stories. So to hear you say, not only me and my family, it's really intriguing because any decision that's made like this, it affects everybody and it ripples out. I would like to hear, as we even start this, when you came in to decide that, man, this is going to work. We've worked together for several years now where you did a lot of cases with us. You were part of us, but you were an extension of us. Now we are all one. You're heading up the charge. What was that like in transitioning from being a position of, hey, man, we're working on this together, arm in arm, versus now you're literally leading how things go? What was the decision process that you had to come through and talk to your family about?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the thing that motivated me was I was ready for a new challenge. I'd been running my law firm for 9 years. I had won a not guilty in a criminal verdict. I'd won fairly large plaintiff's verdicts. I'd won dismissal of all counts, or of all claims in a civil defense case. I'd won appeals. And my law firm, one thing I did really well with my law firm was I said, let's make it successful and then let's make it run without me. And I got to the point where it was running without me. And I loved having so much time with my children, being born, they're 2.5 and 1.5. But for me personally, I was ready to have a job. I was ready to have a new challenge. And it just was exciting to me, just getting into my competitiveness and my ambition and turning those things up again, where maybe this is something bigger and better. And my family's been blessed that I've been able to spend a ton of time with them and watch my young children grow up, and we're so close. That was probably the hardest thing for me was how am I going to balance that with a job that I have to do good at? And we talked about it. My wife was just, man, you have so many resources. You never had resources before. You know what I mean? Somebody'd give you a pen, and you'd make a whole cool thing out of it. Whatever. Yes. I never got a good case. Nobody ever said, hey, let's give Randy Manning a great case. Let's see what he does. And let's give him all these resources and let him use them. And she was just so excited, like, man, you can do this. And I just want to see what happens.
Oh, it's going to be great. And I'll tell you, I want to take a step back and talk a little bit about the personal life of Randy Manning and how you grew up. So when you were a kid, what were you like as a kid? Because now here's what I see. I see you completely motivated, very focused. I see you as a great strategist. And I'm wondering, did you have all those skills inherently blessed into you as a little guy, or was that something that came along? What were you like as a young Randy?
You know, it's interesting. I don't know for sure, but I was intensely competitive from a very young age. My parents tell me that when I was young, 3 or 4 years old, I'd be sitting there watching sporting games while everybody else was doing, 4th of July or Thanksgiving or whatever. I was watching sports. And, I was always locked in. I always wanted to be the best. I always wanted to win to a fault, for sure, when I was young.
In sports, is that what your thing was? Were you an athlete, or was that winning checkers, winning everything?
Anything. To be honest, I had 5 younger brothers. So, growing up, they weren't all born yet, but everything was a competition. Everything was be the best you can be. It didn't matter if it was memorizing Bible verses, right? I won this award. It's called Sparky of the Year. And I mean, I'd tell you, I whip out those Bible verses like you wouldn't believe. And I won the whole, whatever, our church contest to do it. So anything that, for a while, I didn't discern overly much between, well, I want to be good at this and not this. I just wanted to be the best in anything I did, to be honest.
Was that something that you noticed that either of your parents had, or was that pretty unique to you? And what about your siblings as well?
Yeah, it's fun. My siblings aren't sure that we're full siblings, to be honest, because I'm not that much like any of my brothers. A lot of them are much more calm and nicer than me in a lot of ways, and more easygoing in some ways. And my parents weren't that way at all. So I don't know exactly what it was. It's just kind of how I was wired.
Mm-hmm. And did you play sports? You did play sports, right?
Yeah, I played football when I was young. I played football, baseball, basketball. I played pretty much every sport.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball was the one that I played the most, and that I was the best at.
And you played that how far? How long did you take that through?
Yeah, so when I started honing in on really getting serious and understanding there's a difference between kind of playing and I had a good friend of mine who ended up playing for the Devil Rays, and he went to high school with me, and I was a sophomore, and he kind of took me under his wing, and we looked at it almost like a job, honestly. And so
even at that time in high school.
Oh yeah. I mean, every single day. I weighed 105 pounds my freshman year. I weighed 130 my sophomore year. By the time I was a senior, I probably weighed about 190, and I was in pretty good shape.
And because you were focused on building that body that could hit the ball, that could run fast, that could do all the things.
Yeah. And the run fast part didn't come till later. But I played baseball. I had a fair number of offers to go play in various states. I'd had something happen to me that just kind of made it so I didn't want to leave the state. My brother passed away in a car accident about 6 months before I graduated from high school.
And how much younger was he?
He was 11 when I was 18, so he was 7 years younger.
That has to be horrific for you. You're focused on your life and how it's just everything's a possibility and endless energy to go do all this, and all of a sudden someone younger than you, connected to your brother, your loved one, is gone. Like, how did that derail you a ton with all this focus and ambition did you have, or what did that do? I can't even imagine the loss being a single child.
Yeah. It made it so I didn't want to go out of state. I couldn't imagine going to a different state and have nobody have any clue what was going on with me or what was going on in my life. From a personal standpoint, I mean, there wasn't really a whole lot of focus going on at that point. I mean, it was just a mess, to be honest, for probably about 2.5 or 3 years. It changes your perspective so much that it's hard to keep focused, if that makes sense.
It completely makes sense. And I'm interested to say, how did you come through that? Was that something that you literally had to get some therapy for to come through? Because now you're graduating from senior in high school, you're getting ready to go to college. I could see where it'd be so easy to go, you know what, I'm not ready, and I need to take a step back, and I need to process right before your college years. Like, how did you get through that?
Well, I did, basically I did a lot of self-destructive things for about 2 years, to be honest. And I was doing poorly in school. And there was a moment where, I remember it pretty clear, and I just had to say, I saw two paths. I'm going to go this way. I'm going to go this way. And I basically said, I'm done with this shit. And, the stuff I was doing, and I was tired of college. So I quit college for a little bit, and I went and built houses for a year. About 2 years. And just cleaned everything up and went out, and I was outside every single day. And that probably was a pretty big turning point for me.
And were your parents really, because obviously they're devastated, they see you now, I can imagine that they're like, oh, wait a minute, our rock star, super focused, hyperachiever is now struggling. We've lost our family. We're worried about losing our other son to drugs or whatever it could be, alcohol, whatever these things were, these demons. I can imagine the pain that they were experiencing too. Did you need them as part of this process, or was it just a wake up like, bam, I'm done. I see where this is heading. I got to stop.
Yeah. I mean, my parents were for sure involved, but I was so pig-headed and arrogant at that time in my life that it had to come from me.
Yep.
And they were mostly more just hopeful for me, as opposed to telling me how to do things or why to do things. They just hoped and they believed.
That's so cool. Now, what were you studying when in that first round of college? Because did you know you wanted to be a lawyer then, or were you just doing something else and then you took a break, or how'd that work?
Theoretically, I was studying construction management for my first stint in college. But I went and I built houses, framed houses, and for about 2 years after I took a break from college. And after that, my boss came to me and he said, hey, you should buy my company from me. He's like, you can do this. You can run a crew your own way. And he was older and he was basically injured because framing houses is really hard work.
Really hard.
And so I actually told him, hey, look, there's a guy that he wanted to be a part of it. And I was like, if he's involved, I'm not going to be. And he didn't back down on that point. And so I walked away. And what I did was I took a month off. I had saved enough money. I took a month off and I got every single book that I could think of. I just went through Barnes and Noble. At that point, there was no Kindle, and I had a flip phone. So I went into Barnes and Noble and some other stores, and I did all my research, and I bought probably around 40 books.
And what were the books at? What were they about?
There was all sorts of things. I mean, there was a lot of philosophical books. I think probably I had some Francis Schaeffer stuff in there, which if you can understand him, you're really intelligent. For sure, some C.S. Lewis stuff. There was some political books. I can't completely remember the political books that I was reading, but I tried to make it as wide of a variety of things that I could, so I could figure out what I really liked and enjoyed.
So that's why you did it. So you decide, I'm not going to buy this company. I have some money saved. I want to go on a personal introspective sojourn. Is that kind of what it was? So you say, I'm going to go look for books that inspire me, that might help me figure it out. Is that how you, I'm interested. Very few people say they're going to the bookstore to figure their life out, right? That's just really rare.
Yeah, no, basically I was going to go back to college, and I wanted to see what I wanted to go study, and I wanted to see what I was passionate about. And At that time in my life, it was probably immature, but I really liked the political and the historical books that I was reading. And so I just kept going with that. And I enrolled back into college and graduated.
Was the plan to be, did you know at that point you wanted to go to law school and be an attorney, or did you go on a poli-sci bent thinking you were going to change the world politically and then it moved? How did that work itself through?
So yeah, the law school, the whole concept of that was because I never ever wanted to get down the road and somebody to say you can't do this or that because you don't have enough education. And so I thought that, well, I'm here right now, let's just go get a law degree, and that was probably not correct or accurate, but that's what I thought. And so I did it because I felt like it would remove some potential restrictions for me in the future.
And did you know as you went through law school that you then wanted to be a practicing attorney as your career, or did you think you were going to take that and leverage it into something else kind of as you got done?
Yeah, no, I actually, I graduated in 2008 from law school, 2008, and all of our financial system was collapsing, and so I probably would have done something more along those lines. But once I got into law school, I worked for a guy named John Matty, who was a personal injury attorney. And I worked for him for almost 2 years, and there were no opportunities. There were no jobs. The district attorneys weren't hiring because big attorneys from corporate law firms were getting fired and going to work there. So I didn't get a call back. I didn't get a job interview. I got nothing. And John was trying to work on some deal with a different law firm and invited me to work there because he needed me. Because I had done a lot of work and I knew how he operated.
And so at that point, did you fall in love with the personal injury arena as opposed to saying, yeah, I'm going to do this for now until the economy opens up, then I want to go do real estate law or I want to go do something else? There's a point in time where you start saying, wow, this thing, I'm connected to the purpose of this. How did that play out?
Yeah, so personal injury, what I liked about it is that you don't have to bill hours. The idea of, to me, of trading your time for money never really hit home. I always thought that was a bad trade. And so I really liked the idea that that wasn't how personal injury was. I also liked the idea that your interests are aligned with your clients. And I like contingent. When I was a solo, doing my own law firm, I would do a contingent case on a family law case, which is that sounds bad because that's illegal. But what I mean by that is I wouldn't take a fee. We'd have an agreed billing, but I wouldn't try to ask for any money unless we got a good result. And I felt like I wanted to do it that way.
Right, because what people may not know, they're listening, is contingency means you don't ask for money up front. You don't ask for money along the way. The attorney or the law firm is fronting all the expenses in their time, in their labor, their staff's time, any other expenses until the very end when the outcomes come into play. And so for people who've been in our world, a personal injury situation, car accident, dog bite, slip, fall, whatever, a lot of them can't work. They don't have the ability to pay you as they go. So it's such a relief to them to know, like, wow, you mean I don't have to pay you and I can wait till the end, and if we do well, then you get paid, and if we don't do well, then you don't. Like, it takes that burden off. And so to know that you had that as part of your personal DNA, like, I don't want people to have to struggle with that. That's really, really cool. That reminds me actually of Dr. Ramos when he was talking about what kind of medicine he wanted to do, how he didn't want to do what he called a wallet biopsy, right? Where if he thought orthopedic surgery and said, well, if I'm an orthopedic surgeon, then if they don't have insurance, but they need a full knee replacement, what are we going to do here? So what kind of medicine could I do where no matter if you're a pauper or a prince, you get the same treatment? And it was the ER. And what I'm hearing you say is you had similar thoughts on the contingency side, like, hey, I just want to take care of these people. And if I can, and we do well, then we all do well together. That's what I'm hearing kind of you say.
Yeah. I mean, I think given the competitive nature that I've had, if I didn't win, I didn't feel like I deserved anything. If I didn't do good, I didn't feel like I deserved anything. And so, when I have a client, I want to make sure that they got something by coming to me as a lawyer that's better than they would have gotten by opening up the phone book or something.
Beautiful. Do you, excuse me, do you share that same competitive nature now? Because as I've been watching you do what you do from the sidelines, right? As we've been working together, and now seeing it up close and personal with our team every single day as we've been ramping up into this relationship. Do you have that really that driven personality to make your team great? Like you said, you have this competitive edge, like I want to be the best. Is that something that flows out to the people that are going to be trained by you? Do you have that sense to make them bring out their very best too?
Yeah, so I come from a coaching background, and one of my proudest moments as a coach is it was just a little Parker Fall League. And we had probably 5 or 6 rec kids on our team who, they're not as experienced players. And then I had 3 kids or so who were playing up a year in the fall league. So they were smaller, and we were playing this team who had it was the Rockies, some bigwig in the Rockies was coaching a team who was 1 year older than most of my kids. And, I figured out, as a coach, I'd never wanted to win a game that bad in my life when we played the championship game. And we beat them. We beat them bad. We just stomped them.
Oh, no.
And they were all older, all competitive kids, doing it for fun, thought they'd run away with it, and we absolutely stomped them. And, just being a part of that means a lot more to me than any of my personal accomplishments have ever meant. I don't know exactly why that is, but it's a huge deal to me to help bring out the best in other people and to teach them what I have to offer, whatever I can do, and to watch them grow and succeed it's my kind of nirvana.
Yes. So do you see when you're strategizing something, so now looking at how you train one of these people, do you go about that by looking at them as a personality and then looking at how they do their work? So you're going to be working with or you already are working with a lot of our attorneys to make them their best. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because if anyone listening is a manager, is a parent, is a company owner, I think that we can learn lessons from each other about how we bring out the best in the people that we're leading, if you will. So do you try to look at their personality and then look at their mechanics and what they want and put them together? Or how do you go about creating a plan to make me the best that I can be?
Yeah, it's a whole slew of things. You got to look at what someone does good, and you have to look at what someone does bad. And you have to, it depends on the situation. Sometimes what someone does bad will derail everything for them. And so you have to improve on that, right? If they don't get better at that, they're not going to be successful. But sometimes you can really open people up by getting them really good at what they're already good at and helping them through that.
Stay in their strength zone.
Yeah. Like when I coach baseball, as an example, if you have a kid who's a good pitcher, okay, and he wants to be a hitter, you can put all the work in to make him a hitter, but a lot of times it's better to just focus on what they're good at, which is the pitching component. But it depends on like I said, it depends on the circumstances.
And what about failure? Because we all fail, and I have my thoughts about failure being a learning process and how to go about it and how to help my team that I'm coaching and leading. How do I help them get through that? Do you have a thought on the part failure plays in growth and how to help someone put failure in perspective?
Yeah, I mean, baseball, sorry to keep going back to that, but it's a sport of failure. Pretty much even the best players fail almost all of the time other than pitchers. But you have to keep a positive attitude. I think that for me, when people get negative is when failure becomes almost a lifestyle, because then they're expecting the negative. And everybody makes mistakes and bad things happen, but the sun's kind of going to come up tomorrow, as cliche as that is. And you'll get through it. You know what I mean? But if you change your mindset to relish in that failure or expect that failure the next day, you can derail your entire life.
Did you have an example? Because what I see could have happened is when you lost your brother, horrible circumstance, and then you start making some poor choices, that you could have started changing your identity that says, I am a failure. One thing I learned from Tony Robbins in taking a lot of work from him is that all of us need to be really careful with the words that we put after I am, as opposed to I feel. So if I feel sad or I feel like I'm failing, that's different than I am a failure. I am depressed. Were you self-aware enough at that young age to start going, oh man, I need to do something about this because I'm going down a dark hole? Or did you have a mentor? I know your parents weren't necessarily a big part of that. Did you have a mentor help kind of turn the light on for you to switch that? Because that becomes real important on how the lessons that we can all learn from your story.
Yeah. For me, I mean, it was probably the Bible, and I'd read a lot of that. I learned a lot of that, and that was in me. And even though I was going down this road, I always knew that you can't keep doing this or something really bad's going to happen. And at a certain point, I had gone down that road so far that I had to say, no, I got to get on the other path.
Wow. So your faith was a foundation for change for you. You had that inside because like you said, you were the memory champion, right, of the Bible verses. So while you might not have been using it, also all those experiences and the spirit of those words didn't leave you. You were just kind of taking a nap for a little bit. Is that?
Yeah. To be honest, I think I was actively rebelling against it at that time. I mean, it was a crisis of faith more than anything. And when you're 18 years old, you don't understand that bad things happen to people, and you react immaturely. And so a lot of that period of my life was a rebellion against what I believed to be true, and living outside of what I wanted to do, probably because of anger.
Well, thank God that you were able to get a hold of that, right? And to see it, even as a young man, that's really, really deep. And I'm sure that has to have a profound effect as you now lead people, and as you're a husband in your relationship, and as you're a leader of people now at a team. I'm sure there's lessons that you can take and share when it comes to when you see, for example, one of the attorneys that you're working with, and you see that it's not that they're on a bad path with their life, but rather the way that they're going about their business is not to their best interests nor the client's best interests. You now have a whole different set of circumstances and experiences to say, look, we need to put the brakes on this because this is where this path is leading. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, that it gives me a lot of insight into, that your personal life is going to reflect in your work pretty substantially. And if you don't have some things right there or support there, or you don't trust anybody at work to talk about that's going to have an impact on your work. I would say that probably when you see someone doing work that's not up to their quality, that a lot of times that's where it is coming from.
So basically, and I agree with you 1,000%, I think the workplace is one of the best places to support the out of work life of any of our team, right? So that they know. There are sometimes, I know we had one person here who was involved in that whole Vegas shooting thing that went on several years ago. She was there at a concert, and she was coming to work as therapy. It was her ability to help process, because she knew that she was completely loved, completely supported, completely surrounded by people who really cared. And when she was home by herself, that's when she was really prone to a breakdown. And so I love what you're saying is the connection that we should be building in our workplace environments. The culture that we should be fostering is that our people have a safe place so that they know that they are supported and can do their best work, and that we support them in their best life as well.
Yeah, and I think transparency and openness and not judging people for their private lives is important in a workplace, because if you have all of those things, people are going to really try to bifurcate their lives. They're going to try to have a work person and a home person. And to some degree that can work, but the more transparent you are, the more connected you're going to feel with everybody around you, including your work life. And I've been private before too, but I do think it's important to share and be open so that people know where you're at and they can support you. Because if you hide all of that, then it's really hard as an employer or as a manager to figure out what someone needs.
Yes. Oh, that is so good. How do you look at that, changing gears just a little bit? How do you look at the connection between an attorney and a client with the same exact perspective is kind of how I'm asking the question, Randy. So in other words, we have a bunch of clients that our responsibility as a law firm and your responsibility as an attorney is to fight vigorously, I think is the term that's used, something like that, for their best outcome, to make sure that we take the best care of them. But there's another side of that. There's how their lives have been changed by this injury, this incident, right? They maybe can't work, or they can't do the things they used to do in their hobbies, or they can't sleep, or their relationship gets really strained. What role do you feel like a law firm as a group, or specifically an attorney, plays in helping the person navigate that side of their life versus just their case?
I think what probably the biggest one is where fight vigorously is one part of it, but they also call attorneys counselors. And you have people coming to you and you've seen what they've gone through before, and they haven't. A lot of times they've not seen someone get injured and lose their job and struggle financially and have interpersonal conflicts and all this stress. And so from that perspective, what we want to provide to our clients is that experience and that gentle hand saying, I've seen this before. You got to trust me. I tell people to take a deep breath when they sign a contingent fee agreement or other types of agreements that I've done, is that we've got the broad shoulders in that relationship, that they need to be comfortable putting their stress and concerns and worries on our shoulders. And that's particularly important when a client's injured, because the emotional turmoil is not going to help them achieve what their goal is, which is to fully recover from their injuries. Not necessarily always the money piece of it. They need to get better. And if they're carrying around the stress and the anxiety of all of this, and we're not taking that for them, they're not going to do what they need to do, and that's get better.
That just blew my mind. I'm telling you right now, that blew my mind, because here's the visual I have. When you said we've got to have the broad shoulders in this situation, that makes me think of the importance of the way you get broad shoulders is through continued resistance, right? You don't get broad shoulders by resting, by slacking, by not doing hard work. You get broad shoulders through resistance and pushing through and grinding. That means for us to have broad shoulders, we need to put in the work so that they can trust to put that weight on us. And that's where I love what I've seen that you've brought to light, where, hey, we can help our attorneys get broad shoulders. I think that is so cool. We should start using that, like we're the broad-shouldered firm, right? I think that's awesome. How do attorneys get broad shoulders? Like, what do they do so that they get stronger and they can totally allow that person to lay the burden of the case on them?
Well, you got to talk to your clients and communicate with them to see what's going on with them. But from a professional perspective, how attorneys get good at being attorneys is by doing the things that other attorneys do not do. I get calls all the time from all sorts of people that we work with, and they ask me crazy questions because I probably know the answers most of the time. And the reason I know the answers is because I did the work, right? I never really just backed down or stopped fighting because it might be easier to. I tried probably 20 cases in the first 2 years of being an attorney, which I was not prepared to do. I did not want to do, but I did it because it was the right thing to do for the client and for that case. And so that's really how you get broad shoulders, is the resistance, like you said. You have to do the things that no one else is doing. You have to do the things that nobody else is willing to do. You have to do the things that are hard. You have to do those challenging things to become sharp and strong. If you don't do those things, you don't develop the skills that you need to be a top lawyer.
Wow. I want to go do some skills. I want to get good right now. Randy, you're inspiring me, man. Is there anyone right now in your life that you look at to inspire you, either in your profession, like is there someone that you say, man, this is really, I get a lot of inspiration from this person, or in your personal life, in your journey and growth for wisdom and for mastery, any books, any authors, anybody, so that if someone wants to become a master, either as an attorney or just in general, that they might say, man, I want to follow the path that Randy feels. Because, man, dude, I feel it in you, how bad you want it for everybody. And I want to know the resources that you know.
Yeah, I mean, C.S. Lewis is a great writer. He's a great resource. I really like Michael Lewis. Michael Lewis is an author. He wrote Moneyball, Blindside, but the new thing he wrote about John McAfee, Liar's Poker, which is an awesome book. What I like about what he does is he thinks about things so differently, and he writes about innovators and people who ran through walls that nobody thought would get run through. And it helps you think kind of so outside the box and not say things are this way. Helps you think about, well, I want to make them this way. So how do we do that?
And that's Mike Lewis?
Michael Lewis, yeah.
Michael,
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what he goes by, but he's for sure an author who's changed my life. In terms of professional mentors, I mean, Greg Gold is a person who's given a ton of himself to me and helped me immensely. And recently, I will tell you that Joe Ramos just blows me away at how intelligent he is. And that was a big reason that I came here, because I told Joe, if we can get what's in your head into this law firm, it's over. And so for me to have someone who thinks about things and challenges me, I love it when someone says something that I didn't even think about, but is so true and was so obvious. It's just such an awesome moment for me to see something like that. And Joe does that quite a bit.
That is amazing. Well, he does that for all of us, and I know, like I got to say, it sounds like a love fest here, but I am telling you that me reading some of the correspondence and sharing with you has upped my game. And it's only been a short time that we've been together. Now, when I'm communicating with the teams that I'm leading, I pay attention to how I watch you, and I'm learning so that I can be better and have higher expectations and help my teams get broader shoulders. So it's wonderful to see. As we kind of bring things in and narrow it down here, is there one piece of advice that you were given somewhere along the way that has really, really shaped you, that you would consider paramount in your life, or something that you've learned that you would say, man, if I could pass this along, this is the one thing that if I could get out there to the world to say, know about this, try this, whatever, that you would share with us?
Yeah, you know what? This is so cheesy. It's incredible. But I like the movie The Patriot. I love Mel Gibson. And, he's fighting all these guys in one of the beginning scenes of that movie, and he gets the gun to his little son, who's probably 6, and he says, aim small, miss small. And I've converted that a little bit, but it's aim high, miss high for me, right? So go after big goals and big dreams. And you're not always going to hit it exactly the way you thought you would. But if you push for that, you're going to end up in a really good spot, in a really high place. And so I always like that. Aim small, miss small.
That is beautiful. Last question. I promise. I thought the last one was going to be, but you made me bring another. If someone were wanting to become an attorney, what advice would you give them if they're thinking about that as a potential career path? And here's why I ask. As you were talking about that, it was reminding me, I had a chance to speak to a group of 95 17 and 18-year-old kids this morning. So I was down at a local high school called Cherry Creek High School, and I was visiting with their special group, and they are all about, these are kids that come at 7 a.m., 3 days a week, and basically they want to learn about the health sciences. So the course is you learn a little bit about health, but mostly it's doctors of various sorts coming in, talking about their profession so that these kids can get an idea if this is the direction that they want to go in college. And one thing that I told them in that talk this morning, because, as you know, I'm a trained chiropractor and I did that, this is my 30th year of being licensed. And for 18, all I did was practice chiropractic. And then I started changing where my path, because I was just always searching, my path took me in a little different direction where now I get to treat everyone here in the office, but now I help run a law firm, right? Like, how crazy is that? And I let them know that your path may change. That regardless of how focused you are, be open to what's best for you, to your desires, your passions, where you want to grow right now. And you'll be surprised that if you're in the right place, the right thing will happen. So if someone is now thinking they either want to change careers to maybe go to law school and become an attorney, or they think that might be their path, what advice would you give to them?
I would think long and hard about it because it's a huge commitment. It's very expensive to get a law degree. It is a stressful position. It is not an easy job, but I think that maybe the thing that people don't understand is that by and large, you're going to spend a lot of your life fighting for a cause, and you're going to fight for your client, yes, but you're fighting for a cause because a client doesn't always want what's just or fair, but it's your job to do generally what the client wants. So you're pushing a cause as much as you are representing a specific client in every single case. And so another thing I like about being a personal injury attorney is I don't ever feel bad about what I've done to insurance companies, and I never will. And you need to think about that when you're going to dedicate your life to something along those lines, is what cause could you fight for? What would you be okay battling for that amount of time?
That is brilliant. I'm almost speechless, and that's hard to do. So that was incredible, my friend. Do you have any parting words? Oh, I know this. If someone wants to get a hold of you, they have questions about maybe, do you have time to be a mentor, or do you have direction for them? Or what if they have questions about a case? How can they get a hold of you? What's the best way? Is it to call here at the law firm, to call you directly? What would you like?
Yeah, I'd say call the law firm.
So basically, if that's the case, anyone can reach out to us, 303-733-6353, and reach out to Randy and ask for Randy Manning. But as far as that goes, any last words, anything that you'd like to share with folks on the way out?
I appreciate you having me on. It's a little more intimidating and personal than I thought, but I hope everybody liked getting to know me a little better.
It was awesome. No, it was awesome. Brother, you did great, and thank you for joining us. We are honored to have you not only on this show, but on our team, and we are going to do great things together.
All right.
All right, my man. Let's go do it.